So the farrier was supposed to be here at 8:30, but he got here early. So I am on my way down to go and meet him. It is the very first time I've actually ever had a cow's hooves trimmed. And that is because the Scottish Hyland cattle, their feet, they're used to being on the rocky, right, like historically, on the rocky slopes and grounds of the Scottish Highlands. And so when they are not on very rocky soil, their feet get really long, which can cause health problems and issues, etc. But our Scottish Highlands are not tame. So you can't just put a halter on them. They're not halter broke like you would a horse to have them stand for the farrier. So we have found someone who specializes and has a whole contraption. However, I am not really sure how well they're going to go into it and what it's, I don't know what's going to happen. So hopefully it goes really well, easy, super smooth, but we're about to find out.
So you'll see the bull and two of our cows all were in the round pen together. So right here, we're looking for whichever cow is showing the most curiosity towards the chute and then trying to get that cow to go in. However, they're not quite so sure, and you can see. So we're trying to make it the most enticing or the most comfortable place to be is for them to enter into the chute and then to go into the table to get their feet done. So what you see there is just a long stick. It's just used as an extension of your arm because obviously they have horns. They're big animals, even though Scottish Highlands are typically smaller than a lot of your beef breeds. And so we're trying to make sure that we're staying back so we don't get clipped by a horn and or kicked by a foot. And here you see the bull is showing a little bit more interest. So we're trying to keep him separate from the two cows right here to see if he will go ahead and go on in the chute. So we're trying to make it uncomfortable beside and behind him so that he will go in. But we're not putting too much pressure on him. So there he's like, nope, I don't really want to go down the chute. So we're backing off a little bit, kind of letting them just get a little bit more comfortable. And now you see here, one of the cows is like, well, maybe I'm a little bit curious. And so she is starting to move her way forward and into the chute. So here we're just going to start to squeeze and make it a little bit more comfortable on the outskirts of the pen, make it a little bit smaller so that the best option is where we actually want them to go. Now, right here, the reason that we're doing that is because if the cows get their horns underneath one of these panels, they can lift up the whole thing and go out right underneath them. So anytime you see them lower, they use the term, we got a lifter here. You want to make sure that you're moving their head away from those panel gates so that they don't have a chance to get underneath them in order to push them up and then just go on their merry way. So we decided to go ahead and make the round pin smaller. This also helps to alleviate the possibility of them being able to get their heads down. They just don't have as much space. So the smaller, the more cramped those quarters are, the easier it is to then funnel them through. And what's really interesting is how fast this actually worked. So look at that. It was just like clockwork. I can't say enough good things about the Thompsons. They have worked cattle and are extremely efficient at getting them in. So now that she is loaded and into the turntable, just making sure that she is far enough forward that we can get that back gate shut. And really the hardest part is once they have entered into this, because they have their very large wide set of horns and their horns extend out past their head, their first time going into this is they have to figure out how to turn their head with their horns in order to get their head through the front part of this opening. And she did pretty good. Just took her a couple little times. And there she goes. She's right through. So now we're ready to put her on her side so that we can get to her feet. So this works just on a simple hydraulic system. They have just a little portable generator there. And so we just slowly turn her over on her side until we can get to her feet. Now, you see them here. We are securing each foot down because once you start working on their feet, we don't want them to be kicking where they would actually be hurting us and inhibiting us from actually working on their feet.
There's others, but about how often do you usually have to trim them still?
Once a year, if their feet are wearing by themselves good. A lot of times, though, on the Highlands, we do twice a year.
Okay, so it's a pretty...
Even with some that have good maintained pastures.
So here you first see they're cleaning the hooves so that we can get a really clear look at what the hoof looks like. So getting all of the debris and ick and stuff out of there. And her hooves were really long. They were measuring the length on her hooves. And if you have ever had horse's feet done before, then you've probably seen where they just use a large hand rasp, because a horse, of course, is going to most horses are going to freak out if they hear a grinder like this. But because the cows are secured to the table, we can use this grinder. It's just like a big nail file, but it's for cow hooves. This is actually much faster than if you're just using a hand rasp. And so the less time that they spend, the faster we get it done, the happier they're going to be. So this just makes it much more efficient than using the old-fashioned hand rasp.
Oh, look at you, a whole new one. Yeah, look at you. Oh, yeah, look at that.
On the day that we were trimming the cow's hooves, I shared a snippet of it on my Instagram stories, and I got some interesting responses. There were some people who were very afraid or disturbed for the cattle. And here's the thing, when you are raising livestock, it is our obligation to take care of them and make sure that they are as healthy as possible. But sometimes that means putting them in situations that they don't necessarily understand are for their overall benefit and well-being. Because if we did not trim their hooves and we continued to let them grow out and become even longer, it becomes detrimental to their health in a lot of different ways. One is it's going to create, in a lot of cases, arthritis. So you're going to have increased cases of arthritis, which is pain and inflammation, and it's completely avoidable. Not only that, in severe cases, when you have hooves that are getting really long and curving, it affects the way they walk. So they're walking on the joints incorrectly, and over a long period of time, it can actually cause them to deform actually at the bone and in the cartilage and the joint. So that can be really painful, obviously for the animal, not just having to do with arthritis, but it's actually painful for them to walk. If it's painful for them to walk, then they are going to have decreased birth problems when they are calving, because it's painful for them to get to fresh areas of feed if they're having to travel across the pasture in order to get to water. So you have a lot of compounding issues that can all come from not taking care of their feet. Then you can have things like hoof rot set in, which is an infection and is very easy and treatable if it's caught in the beginning. But if you're not taking care of them and examining their feet, in many cases you wouldn't even know. And there's some cases when it's not treated and it's allowed to get really, really bad, then of course you have got infections. You can have big pieces of their hooves have to be removed in order to cut out the infection. So there's a lot of issues that can come up if you don't take care of the animal, and that includes hoof care, especially with this breed of the Scottish Hyland cattle, who typically were on really rocky soil, and we've taken them out of that environment. Our soil is not super rocky here. Now there's some things that you can do. You can put rocks and gravel around their water trough if it's at a stationary water trough. Now in the middle of winter, which we're still feeding hay right now, so their water trough is stationary, but within the next month, once we enter in the season where our grass is growing, we actually do mob grazing, and so that means the cattle will be in a small section of grass, and as soon as they've got that eaten down, then we will move them to a new section, and that means, of course, that their watering trough will be moving too. So putting gravel around their water trough for their hoof care doesn't work for us. It would during the winter months, but it's not going to work for us during the spring, summer, and grass growing season because of the way we move them. So that means that we will have to keep an eye on their feet, and we will probably have their feet done once or twice a year. And this was their first time. None of them had had their feet done before. And so with animals, especially cattle, they are very much an animal of routine. So anything that's outside of their routine and outside of their schedule that they've never been introduced before is always nervous and scary for them, especially when you're doing one animal at a time, because they are a herd animal. They don't like to be split up and isolated. And they're entering into a small area. Typically their defense, they're a flight animal. They're really usually not much of a fight animal. They're more of a flight. That's their safety. They will fight if they aren't able to flight, right? Get away from something, then that's when you will see, horns, aggression, and kicking. But generally speaking, cattle will much rather flee an area. And so when they see tight spaces, they know that they're not going to be able to flee. And so, of course, you're going to see them exhibit some signs of nervousness as they are going into the chute. Making sure that animals are taken care of well is the reason that most people start to raise their own food, because animals that are raised in large commercial areas and are sent to slaughterhouses and all of those types of things, that is much, much worse than just seeing an animal a little bit nervous their first time in a table where they're being laid down and having their feet worked on. And so making sure that the meat that you are consuming, if you are eating beef, which these are part of our new beef herd, we will be having this available for ourselves as well as local folks. Then finding people who raise their animals. These animals will be raised here, they're babies. They will never actually leave our farm. Even their harvest date is here on the farm. And so if that's something where you want to take a greater responsibility for how your animals are being raised, or the animals that you are consuming, I should say, if you are buying beef and you're not able to raise it yourself, is finding small local farms that can offer that. Where the animals are being raised on site, you know that they're being offered extremely good care and being taken care of in a way that makes you comfortable. Then I highly recommend finding a local farmer. And the great thing is, with the internet, we are now able to find local farmers a lot easier. And if you are like me, a small local farmer who has things to offer for sale to the public, such as fresh eggs, and we will be offering our beef cattle you can purchase them as a whole, half, or quarter. Now, these guys will not be calving until this summer, and with the Highlands, they're not to a harvestable size until they're actually 3 years of age. So it'll be a while before we'll have any of our Scottish Hyland beef available. But there is a fabulous app, and this video is sponsored by Farmish. So Farmish is really, really awesome. It is an app. There is a free version and there is a paid version. And I have been using it for selling our eggs locally for about the past 9 months. It's super easy to use. All you need to do is download the app, which you can do at getfarmish.com/Melissa K, or you can just go and find it in the App Store, and you can either search by location, so you just pop in your zip code and it will show you what's available near you, or you can do keyword search. Once you find the thing that you're looking for, you can see the seller's profile, and then you message them for either a meetup, if they have a farm store location. Behind me here, this is our location where we have our chicken eggs, and people can just stop by any time of day and grab them. But you'll get that information from the seller if it's a meetup or if it's an on-site pickup location on how to get it. Now, as I said, I have been looking on here for piglets. We do not currently breed our own pigs, so I'm looking for a new breeder. So I have got some things set there to see when there are pigs in our area, but I also have my own listings. So right now it shows archived our duck eggs. Sadly, we don't have ducks at the moment right now. We had a massacre just a few feet from our back door by coyotes. I've got more ducklings on the way, but right now I just have chicken eggs. But as the seller, you can create free listings to sell homemade produce, chicken eggs like we do, supplies, plants, trees. You can do vegetable starts. I've seen people have sourdough, microgreens, all kinds of different things. And it allows you to grow. So you can find and create a customer base for small, locally grown and homemade items. So there's two ways to sell on Farmish. You have what is the basic listing. So the basic listing is completely free, and the app itself is free and it's free to use. So if you're just downloading it to find places to go and buy things, it's completely free. And I use the basic listing, and so you can have up to 3 listings and they are active for 14 days. After the 14 days, you can go back in and relist them. If you don't want to mess with that hassle, or it's something that you have available all the time, then you can do the market membership option. That's $29 a month or $299 for the year. So the market membership, or the paid version, it allows you to have an expanded profile where you can put links to your Instagram, to your Facebook, YouTube videos. You can embed your YouTube things. You can have unlimited listings without an expiration date, unlike that 14-day expiration date on the basic profile. Go to getfarmish.com/Melissa K, or visit the app to download Farmish, and you can get started buying and selling homemade produce, backyard chicken eggs, honey, trees, garden supplies, and more. And if you'd like to see more videos about the farm and dealing with the livestock and what that looks like, please let me know in the comments below.